The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Michigan sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Michigan sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 221 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, the show that is honest and reveals the facts instead of just being lazy. I'm Taylor Phillips live from my basement apartment office in the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan, and with me on Facebook Messenger audio from the state of Georgia, as always, is my co-host Ed Smith. You can follow him on Twitter at EdSmith313 and add him on Facebook as Edward Lawrence Smith, but he goes by Ed Smith. Thanks so much for being on here with me. And Ed, before we begin, we witnessed Brock Lesnar tested positive for taking performance-enhancing drugs, but won't be punished by the WWE. He'll, in fact, make his return to Monday Night Raw next week. Also, Sasha Banks actually beat Charlotte Flair to become the new WWE Women's Champion. And we have a new number one contender for the Universal Champion. And
he goes by the name of Finn Balor. Recent call-up, he was drafted from NXT. That he was, I believe, before that, the longest reigning NXT champion. And that, like, on his first night on the main roster, he beats Roman Reigns and is now the number one contender to face Seth Rollins. That will crown the first WWE Universal Champion, more than likely at SummerSlam. It speaks, by the way, to how far, and it's unfortunate how far Roman Reigns' star has fallen in the eyes of Vince McMahon since his suspension for his wellness policy. Obviously, you know, if you think about how Vince McMahon did everything they could to put all his time, effort, and energy to trying to push Roman Reigns through the moon, even though some fans might have rejected it. And then it comes out this whole, oh, wow, he failed his wellness test and had to serve a suspension. You knew Vince was not going to be easy going with that. He was going to put Roman on a bit of a tour punishment. I liken it to the Walk of Atonement you have to go through with Game of Thrones. The only exception is you don't have some old nun ringing a bell and yelling the word shame over and over in your ear. But that's what Roman Reigns, unfortunately, is going through right now. It's a tough spot, and you hope this is just this experience that he'll learn and grow through, and hope it doesn't hinder him for the rest of his career. Whereas short term, what you do, well, it's simple. You just turn the guy heel. Half or more than half the crowd is booing him anyway, you know, and at this point, why fight it? You know, especially when it seems like you have other plans in terms of building your next future star or stars, plural, of the company. And so far, it seems that Reigns is not in your plans for those for that immediate future. So just turn the guy heel. You still make money either way, especially more if you turn Roman heel, in my opinion. But you know, that was for those I'm sure are not quite as adverse or deep into the well that is professional wrestling and its scripted entertainment as is, but still entertainment. I'm sure the fans, our listeners, probably not as keen as you and I might be. But you know, at least take that brief moment to let everybody know that there are other things that go on outside Detroit sports.
Yep, and Michigan sports as well, including college football, which we'll get to momentarily. Lots of stuff to get to, but as usual, we're going to start with the Tigers.
That one is long gone.
Well, the Tigers they lost 2 out of 3 from to the Minnesota Twins at home.
Damn it!
And then they win the first 2 of the 4-game series against the White Sox at U.S. Cellular Field. Then they had their Saturday game suspended after 8 innings, tied at 3, and they lose it 4-3 walk-off fashion because Brad Ausmus apparently put in the wrong pitcher. And then in the finale, when the Tigers were trying to when the Tigers were when Anibal Sanchez was getting beat up in like the first and second inning for 4 runs, and the Tigers were down 4-0. They came back. Andrew Romine hit a home run, of all people, in the 8th inning. And then Tyler Collins hit one deep in the 9th inning to cut the lead to 1. And then Jared Saltalamacchia tied it with a home run. both those 2 home runs in the 9th inning were off closer David Robertson.
Oh, man!
And it was tied at 4 going into the bottom of the 9th, but then Brad Ausmus put in Bruce Rondon, and Bruce Rondon apparently didn't even get an out when giving up that game-winning run, that game-winning single. Credit to Mark Eaton for the last 2 wins for the White Sox. He delivered the game-winning single in the 3rd game, and then he took Anibal Sanchez deep for a 3-run home run and a 4-0 lead, which wouldn't stand. But the White Sox, thanks to Brad Ausmus' decision to pitch Bruce Rondon in the 9th inning, still win. And then the Tigers go to Boston. They win 4-1 in the first game, and they win a slugfest 9-8 with Mike Pelfrey giving up 5 runs because we know how inconsistent.
Before you continue to a slight correction, the Tigers actually won 4-2.
Yeah, 4-2
on Monday.
Thank you.
It didn't come without facing some scare from a very scary situation. I believe bases were loaded at one point in the bottom of the 8th, so Ausmus was forced, or in this case, it seemed obvious. The obvious thing to do is get your closer out, get K-Rod out, and what do you know? You're probably arguably one of your most consistently performing pitchers. Got you a 4-out save. How about that? But continue, Taylor.
And both those games, Francisco Rodriguez picked up saves 28 and 29. He pitched a 1-2-3 inning at 9th inning in the first game, and then with 1 out and Sander Bogaerts on first with a single, a 1-out single. Francisco Rodriguez got David Ortiz to ground into the 3-6-3 double play to end the game, and you just got to love the way Francisco Rodriguez is pitching.
Yeah, that changeup and breaking ball have been absolute magic for him this year. It's obviously what was his game plan going into that bat against Ortiz. But let's not forget, did hit a 3-run homer earlier in that game. So 25th of the year, by the way. So for a guy who claims this is his last season, he's putting on one hell of a finishing performance. So you knew he was going to be dangerous to pitch to in any sort of capacity in this at bat. So K-Rod did the smart thing, try to keep it low, not put it in his wheelhouse. And you saw what happened. Ortiz hit right into the shift, and they let him get double play.
Yep. After Pelfrey was done, Brad Ausmus put in Kyle Ryan and then Alex Wilson. They together gave up 3 runs in the 6th inning to tie the game at 8. Just bad relief pitching by Kyle Ryan and Alex Wilson. Kyle Ryan was responsible for all 3 runs that were scored. One of them while on the mound, and 2 of them given up by Alex Wilson. And then Bruce Rondon came in the 7th and pitched a 1-2-3 inning.
That might have been the most shocking thing I've seen in the past 3 days. Even more shocking than Finn Balor beating Roman Reigns.
I love it!
And then Shane Green pitched a 1-2-3 inning, and then, of course, as I mentioned before, Francisco Rodriguez got his 29th save.
And by the way, that 1-2-3 inning was very important for Green because, let's face it, as we saw on Monday night, he did not have a good outing. The commentators at ESPN mentioned something about coming into that outing. Green had done a good job of getting the first guy out. He was like 21 of 22 or 23 or something like that in terms of batters that he had faced coming in, getting that first guy out. Unfortunately, he gave up a first at bat, base hit, single, and unfortunately, just it was downhill from there. Had trouble with command, and unfortunately, put into a situation where it almost cost the Tigers the game. And luckily, Rodriguez came in there, back down everything, and got that 4-out save. But still, it was nice to see him bounce back from this one and have a clear 1-2-3 inning.
Yep, and now tomorrow at 1:35, Michael Fulmer duels with Eduardo Rodriguez at Fenway Park as the Tigers try to go for the sweep. And with Michael Fulmer on the mound, you got to like the Tigers' chances of doing so.
Absolutely. You would hope that Fulmer, with his last performance, would be a bit of an anomaly, but it's still good because his offense, no, it was nice to see the offense step up for him the way he has stepped up for the whole team this year. So even though that wasn't one of his best nights mainly, there was also a good chance for the offense to give him some runs for, and I believe that included Miguel Cabrera notching his 1,500th career RBI in that game. A tremendous performance that led to the Tigers getting that victory. By the way, he did hit his 20th career home run in that game, which also been career number 429, I believe, which means he passed Mike Piazza, recently inducted into the Hall of Fame, Mike Piazza, on the all-time home run list. So it just seems like with every swing of the bat Miggy makes nowadays, it's something historic. So something groundbreaking just happened. So, it's nice to see while we're on the subject of him. He seems to have started warm a little bit. He had a very subpar end to his first half. Didn't seem to have a good start to the second half either. But now, as of late, seeing what he did against Chicago, now seeing what he's doing here against Boston, he might be seeing that usual, that spark that leads to a late second half avalanche of production from Cabrera. We've seen it numerous times over the years, like when it gets to August and September, he just turns on to another gear. It seems like when most of the top hitters slow down, he gets back up unless he's, injured or anything. So if he keeps up his usual, post-August, late July or, onward to September and early October of production, timely hitting, and of course being his usual self, Tigers should be in a good spot when you consider the fact that, okay, Victor Martinez is starting to look a little bit better too. I thought he had a great first half. Started out slowly since the All-Star break. He's having a good series so far against the Red Sox. Former team, by the way. One of his former teams, the other being Cleveland Indians. And now when you factor in the fact that, they're still waiting out time till J.D. Martinez gets back, it's a little bit difficult road now. But I think I understand the Tigers trying to have a bit of a wall of patience to get the promised land near the end.
Mm-hmm. And then the Tigers return home for a 4-game series against the Houston Astros. Matt Boyd against Colin McHugh with a 7.6 record and a 4.18 ERA at 7:10 Thursday, and then Friday at 7:10 Justin Verlander against Mike Fiers with a 7-4 and a 7.4 record and a 4.69 ERA. Mike Pelfrey, who recently tonight gave up 5 runs and got bailed out, but the middle inning relievers could not hold the lead, and Pelfrey couldn't win either. But Dallas Keuchel duels against him, 6-10 with a 4.57 ERA, and no starting pitching matchups for Sunday. That's Pelfrey's at 110. This is a 3-game. This is a 3-game series. My bad.
Yeah, 3-gamers. Zimmerman is scheduled to pitch Friday. Sanchez, which again is another automatic loss things nowadays. He's pitching Saturday, and then the Sunday 110 matchup is Verlander v. Keuchel, and then Pelfrey will be next pitching that Tuesday on the 2nd against Chicago. First game set of a 3-game series.
Yeah, I actually heard that Jordan Zimmerman is going to start rehab on Friday. That's what I heard from Bleacher Report.
Right. So it seems like even the people at ESPN have to make them update that or whatever. But yeah, it is what it is. While we're on the subject of Verlander, I also want to comment, going back to Monday night, how impressive he looked. He didn't give you, the vintage of 7-8 innings of work, but still, some of the stuff that he showcased, which, by the way, not to mention, the Tigers were facing a team coming into this series as one of the best, if not the best, offensive producing teams in all baseball. Top 10 in runs scored, top 10 in batting average, RBIs. I think they lead the league. They led the league in doubles coming into this one as well by a good, healthy margin over the next closest team, the Baltimore Orioles. So to see Verlander hold that team to only 1 run and 6 innings of work, or just over 100 pitches, quite astonishing and very good. Another thing that came of notice was also coming into that game, which probably increased a little bit. That Verlander had a strikeout of strikeouts per innings pitched, per 9 innings pitched of 9.5. That is top 5 in the American League, the entire American League this year. And his second best, as Jeff Moss pointed out on Twitter, coming into that one, that would be currently as of now, his second best postage of his career of that particular stat. So to see another thing that I really like to see is Verlander seems to be getting more velocity back in his fastball. When he won the Cy Young and MVP award in 2011, he had a velocity on his fastball up near an average 95. Then it started to dip when it was as low as 92.3 or something like that, 92.9. It was close to the low 90s in 2014. Now it's starting to be on its rise again, and now the way he keeps it going, he could have it above 93 miles per hour again by the time the season's over. So, seeing what he's done in the month of July, quite remarkable. Only 33 innings of work. He's given up only 6 earned runs, 8 runs total, but 37 strikeouts in those 33 innings pitched. A WHIP of .95 and an ERA of 160. Quite remarkable. It's not, like I said, it's not his usual dominating form that we saw in 2011 and 2012, and even in the 2013 postseason. But a way much more welcome sight than what we saw in 2014 and most of 2015 for Verlander.
But speaking of rehab, and those are very impressive numbers by Verlander. Yeah, I hope we just hope he keeps that up. That's it. Speaking of rehab, we already know Daniel Norris is already rehabbing, and now J.D. Martinez has started his rehab the past Tuesday night. Unfortunately, he went 0 for 4, but I think he's only getting warmed up. It'll just take some time.
Yeah, when you're coming back from an injury, like I said, this is an elbow injury that led to a slight neck injury as well. So when you factor in how that affects not just your hitting when you're swinging a bat, but also how you're moving in the outfield to get the ball, or try to reach the catch or throw the ball, or playing defense, it affects you in terms of mobility with your arms and everything. So see him trying to work his way back into it. This more than likely it's kind of a thing where it could hinder him a little bit for the rest of the year, but the fact that he could be seen as ready to go in the next 2 weeks lets us know it's not too serious, but something you want to keep an eye out on. But still, as you can see, the Tigers, they desperately need him back in the worst way possible. Their batting average in terms, at least going into that Monday night game against Boston, dropped by about 20 points. Their OPB or their OPS, I forgot which one, but it was flashed on the screen by the ESPN stat gatherers. It fallen from the 400 range to in the low 300 range. So we're talking about a near over 100-point drop in production from one of your key offensive categories, and that's due to one guy losing time due to injury. So it's quite imperative that he gets back and doesn't have to necessarily be close to what he was before I get injured, because like I said, with an injury like this, it's hard to determine how much of effort or production that he can, or quality production he can give you for the remainder of the season. But if it's then the Micah Belis's and the Andrew Romines of the world, we'll take that willingly. So you can send those guys back down. Maybe bring back up a Stephen Moya, who he's feast or famine, but he's more than likely to hit a home run than the Andrew Romine or Micah Belis.
And speaking of those other players, let's compare James McCann and Jared Saltalamacchia one more time. James McCann's bat, not doing so great at all. In fact, it's terrible, or at least
for that matter,
really bad.
Well, for that matter, both McCann and Saltalamacchia were having a bit of a struggle heading into this series against Boston, because again, as mentioned on ESPN, leading right up to when McCann had that RBI signal that brought on the insurance run to make it 3-1. He and Slovakia were combined over 21 or over 22 in their at-bats. So that'll be normal if you're seeing that. Okay, that's your bottom of the order guy, the scrub that comes off the bench. But this is your platoon at catcher. Okay, catcher is a very important spot, not just in your lineup, but also, of course, on the field, your defensive alignment. So when your catcher is having a very negative performance at the plate, and it's two guys sharing a platoon in a real form like this, it's very disheartening to see. So Steve McCann get that hit to make it 3-1, and then get the Assault Mafia get the home run here. It was a bit of a relief to Steve. You hope, and some of you hope they can keep up as much as possible.
Don't you think I know that?
Then you got Andrew Romine playing in center field for the second game in a row. He hit the home run in Chicago, and then he hit a single, setting up that Jose Iglesias two-run bomb to left, and Romine's starting to contribute a little bit, although his batting average is still pretty low, and so is his on-base percentage and OPS.
So I mean, it'll be an example of good job, great effort, but yeah, we're still waiting for JD Martinez to get back as quickly as possible.
Yep. So we're gonna switch topics here and bring you a little bit of tragic news here. Very tragic news in Spartan Nation.
Touchdown, MSU!
The Spartans football program has lost their number one punter, Mike Sadler. He died in a car accident, in a car crash with Nebraska Cornhuskers punter Sam Holtz. That was 2 days ago. Oh, yeah, that was on Sunday, and that's just a horror strike, and that's how tragedy struck. We'd like to pass our prayers and condolences to the Spartan Nation, especially Miranda McCoy. She graduated from MSU, and she's still feeling that heartbreak. On Twitter, you can follow her at Meet Shay, MEETSHAY. She's the Wanderess, and part of the Spartan Nation, but that kind of shortens the Spartans' special teams unit a bit, which we'll get to on 5 questions in our 5 questions segment. Also, according to USA Today, Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney has planned to step down in 2020. He started as the commissioner in 1989. So, oh yeah, that is very shocking news, but kind of like me finding out by email that Yoga Soul in Cadillac is closing August 31st. It had competed with Evolve Yoga Midtown. Yoga Soul was Uptown in Cadillac. It was, and I was actually the first customer there. I was like, what? Oh my God! How could this happen? Well, anyway. Oh, speaking of Cadillac, it's going to have a Tim Hortons in a few months, or at least a couple months, somewhere around there. It's on M55 at exit 180 for those listening in the northern Michigan area, the northern Michigan regions, especially in the Lake City, Cadillac area, the Wexford, Massachusetts County regions. You're going to love You're going to love the taste of Tim Hortons. But let's get back to Michigan sports here and shift gears with the Lions here.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Couple notes here. They have worked out quarterback Jimmy Clausen, which is a good sign because Jimmy Clausen can have an opportunity to compete with Dan Orlovsky for the Lions quarterback spot, Lions backup quarterback spot. And they signed 3-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Anquan Boldin to a 1-year deal. He racked up 789 yards and scored 4 touchdown receptions last year. And that's got to be pretty big.
It's quite impressive. I can't say impressive while it's the real home run signing, but it's definitely a move that caught me off guard at the very least, because I thought, hey, maybe they were a little bit done. They've felt completed of what they need to do for this off season and trying to work and tweak the roster and try to fix up some holes that might have come about. One of the most obvious ones being the retirement of Calvin Johnson. I thought they felt complacent, signing Marvin Jones to a deal, and then all of a sudden, bam! And here's Anquan Boldin, former Super Bowl champion with the Baltimore Ravens, former 3-time Pro Bowler, won the Rookie of the Year in 2003. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I believe, in 2003 with the Arizona Cardinals. In fact, in his very first game in his NFL career, he, with the Cardinals, played at Ford Field against the Lions, and in that game, he had 19 catches for 217 yards and a couple of touchdowns. I'm pretty sure that's some sort of rookie record or all-time record for a wide receiver, either having that many catches or yards. One or the other on their very first NFL game. So I'm not sure if that is stood up. One of those, I'm sure, might have been broken by now, but even still, quite impressive that he pulled that off back then. So so now he's, and also another thing that I looked up on surfing through Twitter, one website. I can't remember the name at the moment, but it seems to be a very reliable statistics site. And it noted that since 2006, so we're talking about going on 10 years now, Anquan Boldin has maintained a grade of that will recommend, they'll put him in the echelon of a top 33 or above wide receiver in the entire league. So I would consider that to be an okay pickup. I think he had a bit of a slight career renaissance in San Fran after doing what he did in Baltimore. So when in terms of how it all averaged out, he got more touches, got more yards, got more catches, of course, got more touchdowns. I think one thing that could explain why his numbers were a little bit low last year, especially compared to what he had done in the 3 years prior, was because there was he was on board of a sinking ship in the worst way in the San Francisco 49ers. Remember, this is year one with post Jim Harbaugh. Thank you, Ned York, once again, on behalf of all Michigan Wolverine fans. And also, this is a team that was in so much turmoil, they didn't know who the hell their quarterback was. They had yanked Colin Kaepernick midway through the year, and they replaced him with, of all people, Blaine Gabbert, a guy who I think is probably mediocre at best of a quarterback. So when you have those two, when you have Blaine Gabbert and Colin Kaepernick, who's going through his own turmoil with his professional career, it seems, with how he's playing on the field, I think you're going to see that decline in numbers for Anquan Boldin. So I wouldn't be too surprised if those numbers see a bit of an uptake. Yes, I know he's 36, but he is on a team where, you got a good young quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Obviously now you have a great weapon in Golden Tate, and this, at the very least, like we're going to be on a crucial third down or whatever, when teams are looking to try possibly double up on Golden Tate, at least one-on-one or better coverage for Anquan Boldin get through, or maybe Eric Ebron or Theo Riddick or Amir Abdul. Basically what it boils down to, you're giving another good, valuable weapon to Matthew Stafford. Hopefully if his offensive line can keep him upright for the most part this season, you should see the offense flourish, and really the only question mark for the Lions would be how good can their defense be, and how much of an inept coach is Jim Caldwell, basically. But we already know the answer to that second question.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Let's see here, the positions. Because now Anquan Boldin can now work with wide receivers Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, T.J. Jones. Also, we got tight ends Eric Ebron and Ben McCord. We got Jeremy Curley, Jay Lee, Andre Roberts, Ryan Spadola, Damian Copeland, Quinshad Davis. But the big names that like Golden Tate, Eric Ebron, Marvin Jones, and Andre Roberts, etc. I think the Lions have a pretty good wide receiving department.
Yeah, and a wide receiver core that, with the exception of a receiver core in general, that with the exception of Ebron, seems to have a very low drop rate. Jim Costa on Twitter pointed this out, that Lions receivers that are on the roster this year, so we're including Boldin, this was their drop rates for 2015 last year. Golden Tate, 2.3%. Also lists Jones. I'm assuming that's Landry Jones. Not Landry Jones, but Marvin Jones. Excuse me, Marvin Jones. I'm assuming that's him. 1.9%. Theo Riddick, 0%. Jeremy Curley, 0%, and now the newest addition, Anquan Boldin, 1.8%. So we're talking about that's a good chunk of your receiving core minus Eric Ebron and Amir Abdullah. 5 of those guys have a very low to practically no drop rate percentage at all. So even though Stafford is not the most especially when Stafford's not exactly known as to be the most accurate of passers, having good hands, especially on these situations like third downs, is very essential here. So that's another reason why I am in favor of this acquisition. And you have to wonder, even though he's 36, it is a 1-year deal. So essentially, it's a contract year. And the old saying is, players usually ball out better during contract years. So maybe if Boldin has an impressive year, the Lions could probably find a way to sign him to another more longer deal next year.
That's true. And I got your private message here that Mike Sadler was a former punter because he already graduated, and I'd like to thank you for that. I give you credit for it, and we give
no problem.
And we give credit to the editor that published that article. So with that being said, some quick headlines. Well, the Red Wings make it official. They signed Danny DeKeyser, their last defenseman, to a 6-year, $30 million deal to avoid arbitration. And they and number one goaltender Peter Mrazek reportedly are $4.15 million apart in salary negotiations. They hope to sign him to a deal before the arbitration hearing. Also, the Pistons... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say not the best news that you want to hear on either end. Danny DeKeyser's a below-average player at best, and yet you're giving him $5 million a year. And then, of course, with Mrazek, it is what it is. But you hope it doesn't reach too much of an impasse, and hopefully it gets resolved as quickly as possible.
Yep. Hopefully they keep Mrazek. It's pretty sure it's going to happen, but we still gotta hope.
Left sideline 3, and he answers.
And then the Pistons signed guard Ray McCallum to a 1-year minimum salary deal. He played with the Detroit Mercy Titans. He is an undrafted free agent, I assume. Is that correct?
I'm trying to locate that right now. Give me one brief moment.
And I think he's another point guard too.
Yeah, it is. He is a point guard. He's it's a league minimum deal, so it's a potential small risk, even greater reward. In fact, he played 41 games last year with the Spurs and the Grizzlies. He was picked 36 overall in 2013 by Sacramento, so he's not an undrafted free agent. He was, in fact, a former second-round draft pick. So, spent his first 2 seasons in Sacramento, then with San Antonio, Memphis. Now here he is with Detroit. He is listed as a point guard, so that does Give them, again, more depth at that spot. I think he could be used more so, whether it be second or third unit as one of those guys to help scoring, whereas Smith could be used as one of your point guards, one of your backup point guard that's more distributor. Smith is the distributor, McCallum would be the scorer, that sort of thing, while, giving rest to Reggie Jackson as much as possible. So the Pistons want to make sure that they're covering all holes as much as they possibly can this offseason. Most of this primarily concerned the bench, and between what they did in the draft and what they have done and are seem to continue to be doing this offseason, fill out their bench, fill out their backups. Primarily point guard, guard in general was specifically point guard, and even with the big men. So you saw that with the Boban Marjanovic signing, the drafting of Henry Ellenson, even the signing with John Lure. So, and now, of course, with the signings of Ish Smith, now Ray McCallum. By the way, another one-year deal. So, again, in essence, this is another player playing a contract season. He could give you some good numbers on a team where, you're not expect like this. He could have a bit of a breakout season and either attract wanted eyes from different teams, or the Pistons find enough intrigue to do what they can to keep him here. So it's a contract year for McCallum, so if he plays out of his mind or whatever the case may be, he's 25, so it's not like he's a washed-up veteran or anything like that. So I'm sure his father, Coach Ray Sr., he's very proud of his son, especially not only maintaining playing at a well enough level where a team still finds him valuable enough to sign, but hey, it's his hometown. So, good luck to him, and definitely good luck to the Pistons.
Yeah, I think it would be a pretty good backup point guard behind Ish Smith and the other point guards. All right, I think it's time for 5 questions. You ready?
Well, ready as you are, Taylor, so just let them rip.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker.
Question number 1, is standing pat the right idea for the Tigers? We haven't talked about that yet, because there are 3 options here: buy, sell, or stand pat. We've heard the Tigers. I've heard in an article that Tigers general manager Al Avila is likely to stand pat at the trade deadline, and then we heard about Lynn Henning's article that the Tigers' long-term plan is to cut the payroll and get younger. Well, that's about the same horseradish that Lynn Henning was trying to address on the drive with Jack Ebling on the Team 92.1 FM WQTX in Lansing. I'm pretty sure you looked at that article too.
Yeah, and it just repeats it's full of the same, I guess you could call it garbage that he's trying to peel out of, we need to trade Verlander or whatever, or put Kenzo Rebel on the block. Ugh.
Oh my God. Yep, same old Lynn G. Henning. What can we say? But anyway, is standing pat the right idea for the Tigers? That's question number 1.
I don't think that's necessarily the right move to make. Maybe long term, but for now, for short term, I would say no. I'm definitely not in the sell camp, especially now when you consider the fact that we're still waiting for J.D. Martinez to get back, as well as Daniel Norris and Jordan Zimmerman. So when considering the fact that we're just this far off of the pace between American, well, at the very least, the wild card, even though the Central seems to be an outside shot at this point. Knowing those players have yet to return back is probably influencing or encouraging the Tigers' decision right now. If I was a team, though, knowing how horrible Anibal Sanchez has been, you need yourself another quality starting rotation arm. So if it meant trading a couple of prospects or whatever, I would be leaning more towards buyer rather than seller, at the very least, to get somebody to replace the albatross that is Sanchez in the rotation and kick Sanchez back into the bullpen permanently for the remainder of this year at least.
Well, see, here's why I asked that question. If they stood pat, then there would be a greater chance to for the Tigers to fire their manager Brad Ausmus because remember he's been putting out he keeps putting out the wrong players, i.e. Andrew Romine, Bruce Rondon, Kyle Ryan, Mike Aviles when JD Martinez was healthy. He even took Miguel Cabrera out of the game 3 times. He took Victor Martinez out of the game twice, once for Andrew Romine and then the other for Cameron Maybin, which is somewhat better. Maybin's got the speed and the bat, but Romine in general doesn't have the bat. He's got the speed, but he's got a small brain in terms of base running decisions.
While we're talking about him, let's not forget to mention Maybin. What he suffered a back injury of sorts this week before the Red Sox series started.
Yeah.
So he's getting what he's listed as day-to-day, or Osmus is just giving a couple of days off or whatever. Especially knowing more than likely he won't play in Wednesday's game, knowing that there's a day off on Thursday, so more than likely he probably won't be back until Friday at the earliest.
Ouch. Thanks for the heads up on that one.
Yeah, no problem. But in terms of, like I said, back to what I think they should do, lean more towards buy, definitely not sell. And hey, another point that you brought up, and that I want to agree with you, if in terms of there could be a benefit. Hey, if you stand pat, don't make the playoffs, hey, we can still fire Brad Ausmus, hopefully.
I would have to agree. Maybe buying is worth it. Maybe standing pat is I don't know, kind of worth the wait for Brad Ausmus to get fired. But I'd have to agree with you, Ed. I think it gives more of a chance, Ausmus a bigger chance to make better decisions, and if he doesn't, then he's toast. And Manny Acta possibly comes in, hopefully comes in, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Next question.
Question number 2: should the Tigers have sent Bruce Rondon, speaking of whom, back down to Toledo instead of Buck Farmer?
I'm leaning towards yes in that one because, for the most part, he's having a good season, but what he showcased the past couple of weeks, far from impressive and quite troubling. You would think maybe he needs a brief stint in Toledo in the minors to readjust himself, since you seem to be doing that with Daniel Norris all day long. Why don't we just do that for a guy who is on here and is healthy, but he's starting to unwound at the seams a little bit here. So I'm leaning towards yes. I think they should have at least contemplated sending him back down. Who knows if they did or not, but that's just me.
Next question.
Question number 3: should Jared Saltalamacchia be the number 1 catcher?
He's making a case for it. He's more than, if you're gonna look at your catcher, that's who's more likely to hit a home run, you probably go with Saltalamacchia before you do with McCann, even though McCann did have that RBI single the other night. But it seems more often than not, whenever there has been a big hit from the catcher side of things, it's been Saltalamacchia. So if it comes down to it, gun to my head, probably Saltalamacchia, probably. And that's not necessarily a knock against McCann, but I want to see a little bit more offensive production from whatever lineup I trot out there. So I might get more of a chance from Saltalamacchia than I do with McCann. I'm going to take that chance with Salty.
I'd have to agree.
Next question.
Question number 4: can Jimmy Clausen outperform Dan Orlovsky for the Lions' backup quarterback position?
Well, if he doesn't run out the back of the end zone, then yes. That's all you need to know. Just don't run out the back of the end zone. Know your awareness.
I'm sure he won't.
Next question.
Question number 5, last but not least. Because of Mike Sadler's death, how do the Michigan State Spartans football team play with only one punter on their regular season roster? Because they only have one punter left. Actually, since Sadler graduated, the Spartans actually might have two punters now, because as far as I'm concerned, we might have to dig up the roster on this one. But how do the Spartans? Let me change that question. How do the Spartans respond?
If you want,
into the regular season?
I was going to say, if you want, we could just replace that with the Anquan Boldin question.
We were going to have that as a bonus question, but now it's question number 5. How can wide receiver Anquan Boldin help the Lions offense?
Quite well, where only first and foremost gives you depth, 2 gives you a sure-handed receiver, 3 gives you another option on third down, so you don't have to over-rely on Golden Tate far too many times, and 4 makes your offense looks like you have a lot of potential, and only just, you're not the most well-rounded group in the league, but you're one step better now, it seems, on paper, than where you were just merely the day before. So, it seems the only question marks for the Lions offense coming in this year, how good can their offensive line perform, and can any of their running backs show any shine? So, again, I really like this move for Anquan Boldin. Name recognition, gives us a good talent, and gives us good depth. So, good job, Lions.
Oh, yeah, I can hardly wait for him to help out this Lions offense, especially the wide receiving department. And for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. If you forget what those questions were, I can comment them for you. Before we sign off, Ed, we'd like to give a tribute to Jeff Moss's hit him with the hind line. And you listened to he was listening to Howard Stern, and he periscoped it. He mentioned Ryan Schuling in the Schuling Report, and they played that clip of Jeff Moss's interview with Ryan Schuling, and Jeff Moss kicked it off with "hit him with the hind." It was a tribute to John Hine, and it cracked a lot of us up. It cracked a lot of us up.
University of Michigan's own John Hine, I might add.
Oh yeah, lucky you. And it was very entertaining nonetheless.
And I'm sure, like you said, if for someone like Moss, who practically, I know he's not exactly the most religious cat in the biz, but I guess you could say he worships at the Church of Howard Stern. So to have something like this will probably be a cool, neat thing for I guess you could say tick off your imaginary bucket list, saying, wow, I got recognized on the Howard Stern show, or at least the affiliation of the Howard Stern show. Cool thing to accomplish. Kudos to Moss on that one.
Yeah, that put Moss and Schuling to the top of the mountain in the radio industry.
Yeah, I mean, Moss is already building something by getting the collaborations with Sour Shoes to prank call people. So this just puts it over the top.
Oh yeah, that is just amazing, outstanding, and it's pretty damn good. How's that for a blast of wind from Howard Stern, huh?
How about that?
Yep.
Hey now.
Yep. So with that being said, that wraps up episode 221 of the Michigan Sports Truth. Again, we apologize for any technical difficulties. There were some ebbs and flows, but we rolled with them, and we still knocked it out of the park. Ed, thanks so much for your help. I'll talk to you again on episode 222, possibly again this upcoming weekend.
You too, Taylor. Thanks a lot. Take care. Have a good night. You take care, fellow listeners in listener land. And Baba Booey to y'all.
Oh, yeah. Hit him with the hind. And for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. Follow us on Twitter at DT2Phillips with 2 L's and Ed Smith 313. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.